Should you learn scales? Yes, but know your intervals. Could have just said that at the start, to be honest. Hi, Sam here for LickLibrary.com. LickLibrary have asked me, should you learn scales? Now, I'm going to say yes and kind of no. Let's find out why you should know your scales first of all. Personally, I think it's quite important to understand the major scale. Within the major scale, you have all your chords, your formulas for most music basically. You have pentatonics, you have the modes, and understanding the major scale and the pentatonics, because they're all the same thing, and the chords that come out of it, will give you greater context and freedom in terms of finding things and understanding things that you're either learning to play or creating. So if you're writing, you know how to find certain sounds or what intervals will give you a certain mood, or how to find a chord in a song if you're finding it tricky to come up with another part. I always go back to the idea that music theory is the theory of music, not music theory creating music. However, I also said kind of no, and I mean this very lightly. We don't need to necessarily learn hundreds and hundreds of scales, hundreds and hundreds of positions. It's much better to understand the major scale and the pentatonic really well in a couple of positions, understanding the intervals and how they relate to the chords underlying and how the modes come out of that major scale, which to some people who are beginning, that can sound quite daunting, but that's kind of, if you understand that, everything else is optional and easy depending on what you're going into doing. For example, if you're playing jazz music, you're going to need to understand the melodic minor, a bit more about the harmonic minor as well, and some diminished scales. But for most rock and progressive music, even some of the fusiony stuff really only focuses on some of the regular modes from the major scale. Another reason I said kind of no is that the scales themselves are information, they aren't music. So it's really important to break these scales up. If you know a position of the major scale, for example, you can break that up in your practice. You can break it up rhythmically. Getting control over the sound that you're playing, or maybe a really important thing to do really is understand how to find your triads. Understanding how to find your triads within a position, or maybe finding the chord forms here. Being able to find the chords within that position and be able to find all the other chords from that same scale. So that's going to really help your playing. And perhaps the most important thing to do and to keep in mind when learning anything on guitar, especially something theoretical and quite dense, like information about scales across the neck, you've got to engage your ears. Don't just learn things on fact and ideals and concepts. You need to be applying this. And there's loads of great resources here at LickLibrary that help you learn the major scale, learn the pentatonics, learn the chords that go with them, and put them into context of improvisational settings or in context of famous songs. Everything you hear, everything you listen to, you will be hearing modes, you'll be hearing arpeggios, you'll be hearing all this stuff. And to understand how to find that on the fretboard makes playing a lot more joyful, quicker, and actually you can start to learn more about the music you love and find and be able to play things that suit your style of playing and your goals as a musician much more quickly without having to kind of guess as much, but at the same time linking your theory to your ears is going to make you a better musician and a better guitarist overall. So in summary, do learn your scales, learn your major scale and how the chords come out of it and the pentatonics come out of it. Understand it in context of creating music. Understand the modal sounds. The modal sounds are chords basically. And you don't have to learn hundreds of positions. It's more important to understand the positions you've got and apply them than just learning hundreds of positions. Later on you can add positions if you want to, but really what you want to understand ultimately is intervals. So should you learn scales? Yes, but know your intervals. Could have just said that at the start, to be honest.